Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I want to discuss the 10 things I learned as an independent freelance videographer in the last 5 years of me existing in the space and doing what I do. I have been doing freelance videography for the last 5 years, and I've mostly been catering to professional business-to-business corporations, mostly based in the UK, but also internationally as well. I specialize in doing basically events, professional business events, professional business video stories about people in the company, employees, recruitment. I do a lot of videos for my clients that involve pitching their services, and we create video content around that. So most of my experience is B2B video creation. However, I have been doing this since 2019, and these are the 10 things that I learned along the way. And I really don't want this video to be like Instagram worthy, glamorous kind of content where I show you the highs of living this independent creative lifestyle. What I really want to talk about is the reality, the difficulties that you're going to have along the journey, what this is going to mean for you, and things you have to keep in mind if you want to indulge in this lifestyle, or if you want to work for yourself or be a sole entrepreneur. Without further ado, and in no particular order, let's get into it. So the first thing I want you to keep in mind is that everything in business that could potentially go wrong will go wrong at some point. And you need to have a plan A, and then you have to have a plan B or a plan C for any particular situation. Now, you can call this bad luck or just, unfavorable circumstances that you find yourself in. But over the years, I have really experienced, I think, pretty much most of it. I've had little things like a memory card chip on a client's video shoot and getting corrupt and losing the files. We had to redo the project. I've had a situation where I almost missed an international flight because my bus that was taking me to the airport was massively delayed. I've had my photo equipment stolen in a pub at the end of a video shoot in London. I've had a situation where I was traveling, I was on the road, and I had a tight deadline for the work that I had to deliver to my client. And I was basically sending the footage that I had to edit to my editor. And I had really crappy Wi-Fi in the hotel room, and the upload kept crashing. And it was very tight because I was almost missing the deadline because of this Wi-Fi connection that was really bad in my hotel where I was staying. So I've had all sorts of scenarios. These are just the ones I can think of the top of my head. But over the years, it makes you just realize that these things just happen. There's no point being a victim about it and crying and asking, why me? Why does this always happen to me? It just happens to everyone. This is just how things usually go. But you have to remain calm. You have to remain emotionally unaffected. If you start getting emotional in these situations and panic and, get flustered, that's really no good, because you have to remain calm, neutrally, so you can make the best decision to get out of that negative circumstances quickly. And these days, I almost treat all of my video work almost like an aircraft that is flying from one airport to another. Like, I will literally make a list of things that I could potentially see going wrong, and I will write the backup plan of what I will do if that situation happens. So, for example, if there's some technical issue with your equipment, I'm going to have a second backup camera. If not, then I will know some rental shops nearby where I can go and get a rental. But of course, realize that you can't always foresee everything, right? And still things can happen in the future that is going to throw you off. And that's fine. That's where experience comes in. So keep this in mind, because you are definitely going to face some crazy lows and crazy bad luck as this journey continues and as you embark onto this. Number 2, remember that your network of people that you know is literally everything. It's a people's business. Now, whatever niche of videography or photography you're in, say you're shooting weddings, or you're doing something for leisure and travel, or you're doing something with, arts like festivals or theater, and if you're catering in that kind of field, ultimately you're working with other people. You're either going to be working with heads of marketing or heads of business development or PR people, or even if you're working with consumers who are booking you, for example, if you are in the wedding videography business, and then of course you're working with other consumers who might recommend you to their friends. But ultimately, you're working with other people, and the way you treat other people, the way you come across to other people, your communication is super powerful. It's probably the most important thing you have outside of your actual skill of being a talented creator. Like, of course, being able to capture content and edit content is important. But ultimately, why are people going to work with you is because the experience that they receive when they work with you. And the best type of marketing that you can have is word of mouth. It's when clients walk away from you, from experiencing you, and basically they think, wow, this person was great, and they want to recommend you to other colleagues, to their friends, to whatever. And this is so powerful because I've been quite lucky. Like, over the years, I haven't really had to invest much in my personal marketing budget. Of course, I have a website and I post things on platforms, but more or less, I have been quite lucky in the sense that I do try my absolute best to do a great job. And then clients, usually when they walk away from working with me, they do have good things to say. And this has helped me massively because that has helped me scale. It helped me grow. It helped me find other people in similar niches. And this is why network and keeping in touch with your network and being relevant to your network and obviously treating your network well is super, super important. And keep this in mind, because if you're a very talented creator, but you're not good with people, you might be difficult to work with. And, not everybody will be willing to put up with somebody who's just a difficult person to work with. Point number 3, and this kind of links from point number 2, because projects are always going to evolve and you always have to be prepared to go the extra mile on the job, essentially. Now, of course, here there's a fine line between like going the extra mile and putting in effort and like not being exploited. So you don't want to work for free. Of course, I personally don't believe in working for free. I think value deserves payment and some sort of remuneration. So you have to be very clear with whoever you're communicating with. Set out deliverables in writing, clear deliverables where you explain to the person that has hired you what you're going to give to them at what price. So for example, if it's a video edit, how much it's going to cost, and you list your terms. Like, for example, I'm going to give you this video edit and I'll give you all of the raw files from the shoots so you can repurpose that for your own purposes. Or if it's like an add-on like photography, that could be an extra, right? So the point is that you have to outline this communication clearly in writing, and both of you and the person you're working with have to agree to this. But of course, be prepared that like sometimes there's just an extra little thing that you might have to do on the day. For example, there might be an extra person that you might need to record, or an extra interview that you might need to conduct, or some behind the scenes photos for the client because they just want to have something to post on their LinkedIn, right? These things, it's better not to be too difficult about these things and just basically do a great job and make sure that the person that you're working with is happy. Projects evolve. I definitely believe that you should try your absolute best to not come across as somebody who like is too guarded and doesn't want to give value when you're there on the day. I believe that like the more you can do for the client to make them happy, the better. That's my personal philosophy. But of course that comes with your own principles in terms of how much extra you want to do. But just be prepared that something extra will always most likely come up on a shoot, and that's okay. And that is also actually an opportunity that you can then take and produce something extra for the person that you're working with. So keep this in mind, but projects frequently become bigger than initially planned. And don't take that as a negative thing, take that as a great thing, because there's more opportunity here in terms of doing more work and having more leverage. Point number 4, know your equipment inside out. Do not learn your equipment on the job. And I'm not just talking about knowing your camera inside out and knowing the lens, but I'm talking about like knowing how your lights are going to affect a certain scene, knowing how to set up your microphone and where and how to hide the microphone, knowing that what sort of clothes could negatively affect a lapel mic. You need to know that in a certain scenario, what sort of ISO levels you can dial into a camera and still have the footage looking reasonable, to, what sort of ISO values might push the camera too high and the video might start falling apart. When I'm shooting photos indoors, if there's any surfaces that are not white, that are maybe the walls are painted a different color, that's going to cast colors onto the subject. These little things, you need to know these things inside out. And obviously this comes with practice. Obviously this comes with experience. But as much practice as you can do beforehand, before doing actual paid work, the better, because you don't want to be the person learning on the job. You don't want to be seen as like testing things out on the job, because that just makes you look like you're an amateur, like you don't really know what you're doing. And it's going to take time away from the set, from the shoot. You want to be the person who comes in, you know your stuff inside out. You understand the situation that you're in, the environment that you're filming in, and you just want to dial in the right settings, put everything correctly, adjust all the levels for microphones correctly, and just start working. So make sure you have the practice, the adequate practice for a certain scenario before you begin, because you don't want to be the one figuring things out on the job as the job evolves. Number 5, document everything and make behind the scenes content. Obviously what you're watching now on screen is all of this behind the scenes footage that I have collected over the years of me working and being in places and commuting to places and doing stuff. I just think that, look, the hard part is getting sales, the hard part is getting hired for jobs, and the hard part is doing the job. But once you're on the job, like, just getting some behind the scenes content, that's the easy part. Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy, because this is a great way to obviously show other people that you know what you're doing. And, you know, it just, you can do it on your phone. Like, take out your phone, record a few seconds of behind the scenes footage of you doing stuff. And it's great. It's great social proof. It's great for yourself because you can make content on the back of that. And it's also a great way just to remember your life, because this moment shall too pass, my friend. And one day you will look back in memory of what you've been doing as you are on the journey of freelancing and sole entrepreneurship. Point number 6, with freelancing, you often feast and you famine. Look, if you want to have a steady income where you get paid regularly once a month on time, you should have stuck to your regular 9 to 5, because in self-employment and in business, it just often doesn't work this particular way. It's often that invoices get delayed, payments get delayed, people are on holiday, people are sick, things happen. That's just a lot of business. And even big corporations, they even have dedicated departments in their accounts team that will chase outstanding invoices and outstanding revenue. That's really normal. But you as well, as a sole entrepreneur, as a sole creator, you're going to be affected by this as well to a degree. Of course, it's always a great habit and it's a great practice to take 50% payments up front from your client to lock in a payment and to lock in a date for when you're shooting. But that sometimes isn't always the case, because if you get hired last minute to do something, they might not physically be able to process payment this quickly for something. Also, there will be just natural dry spells in your business. Like around July and August time, I find that in my realm of video production that I'm in, like, a lot of people are on holiday because it's summer, and also around Christmas time, it's just going to be quiet, you know, and I already know that these things are going to happen. And when they do happen, again, don't panic, don't lose perspective. But on the flip side, when things are going well and you are making big cash and you are rich, don't be that guy who just goes out, buys a brand new camera, brand new lenses, and books a one-way ticket to Thailand. Because just, you have to be calm emotionally when things are bad, but also when things are good. Like, when things are good, you also have to be calm. Don't do any crazy rash decisions. I've definitely been there a few times where I had a great month, I would make a whole bunch of revenue, I would sit there, look at my account thinking, that's it, I've made it, I'm all good. And then I would be stupid and I would buy things I don't need and book things that I don't need. And then fast forward 6 months and you're like, oh, I wish I didn't actually spend all that revenue on BS, and I would actually, you know, be a bit more wise and a bit more smarter. But hey, you live and you learn. But again, keep it in mind that income for freelancing is most likely going to be inconsistent. So this is something that you have to get very mature with very quickly. Like, having financial responsibility is super important. Point number 7, you need to start doing business before you feel like you are fully ready. Because honestly speaking, you're never going to be fully ready for anything in life. There's always going to be things that you don't know, things you need to learn, things you need to figure out. Now, I know I've said before in my previous point that don't be the guy learning on the job. However, in general, in life, you know, we are all, without getting too philosophical, we're all students of life. We don't know exactly how things are going to pan out. We can't predict the future. And I started my business in 2019. This was 6 months before COVID became a thing. And I think if I waited until 2020 to start, I might have been crippled by fear and I might have never started my journey, because I would have seen COVID, I would have seen lockdown, I would have seen the amount of people struggling, and I would have been like, oh, actually, I shouldn't do business because it's just unpredictable and I could be completely screwed. And so I might have stayed in my job forever, But the fact that I didn't know what I didn't know, and I still did it when COVID happened, when lockdown happened, when things were difficult, I got through it. And now when there's a new crisis, which there is always going to be a new crisis, you just, again, remain calm. You think, okay, I've survived all the other stuff in the past. I'm going to survive this one as well. And so the general navigation of life, the general navigation of business, the general navigation of business scenarios, yes, of course, it's nice to have prep. It's nice to have theoretical knowledge. It's nice to have experience, but we don't fully know everything. And in the creative field as well, your job is to push creative boundaries. You are basically paid to come up with something new that hasn't been a thing before. And you are at the forefront of experimenting and figuring things out as they evolve. So yes, it's a balance. You have to know your stuff. You have to know your how to operate the camera, how to conduct a scene, how to direct people, but also realize that you don't fully know everything. And it's okay when you are meeting that scenario where you don't know what's going to happen in the future and you still have to push through it. Okay. So start before you're fully ready, and it's okay to not be okay. Point number 8, be calm under pressure, whether this is onset or offset. I've already spoken about how you have to be calm when things are not going your way and the plan is not working out. But when you are filming, when you are actually there directing a scene, people pay you, clients pay you money to basically lead them, okay? You don't want to be the guy who looks for your client's opinion on how to do something. I usually work with smaller teams, and I am basically in charge of directing a certain scene that I'm working with. So the client doesn't know. Most likely, the people that you're working with, they're not going to be professionally trained to speak on camera and to present ideas well. If you are working with those kind of professionals, that's really lucky, because most people, they don't know how to come across well on camera, and you have to direct them. You have to give them advice. You have to tell them where to sit, where to look, how to breathe, what to do with their hands. These little things that is going to create the aura of your scene, the energy of your scene. You have to be the one who takes care of that. And you have to not be afraid to be under pressure to give negative feedback, because sometimes people need to hear negative feedback. And if they're doing something, if you're recording someone and if they're doing something that is going to be bad, even if there are big egos involved, you have to tell people that, like, okay, this is not going to work. Let's try a different take. Let's do this. And you have to direct them. And giving negative feedback sometimes is a lot of value. Honesty is super important. Point number 9, share your work. Don't have imposter syndrome. It's all in your head. People who don't like it, they won't like it anyway. And trends on the internet, they come and go. I remember in 2019 when I first started, it was very popular. It was very fancy to have all these like crazy YouTube transitions. There was a lot of YouTube creators that were doing all these fancy, swishy, swashy, crazy transitions in camera and all these effects of all these like fast dolly zooms, pans, whatever. That was like the trend in 2019. These days in 2025, I don't even know what the trends are anymore, but I've seen a lot of these kind of like vintage, nostalgic, trendy vibes of people diffusing their footage and making it all look like 90s or 80s kind of style with RGB effects and all this kind of. These trends, they come and go, okay? And just because something is popular today doesn't mean it's going to be popular tomorrow. Something that was popular yesterday doesn't mean it's going to be popular today. And so you're going to overthink everything if you try to follow these trends and if you try to tailor your content to be a certain way. Even right now, there's like everything is like short form content with TikTok and shorts and that. Like, just basically do your thing. And at the end of the day, if you're putting out content and if you're documenting and sharing your work, that is already like most of the hurdle. You can always repurpose things later down the line if you need to. But the important part is to press share. Don't doubt yourself that you're not good enough. because somebody somewhere will resonate with your style, that will resonate your personality, and they will want to hear it from you. So that's completely cool. Realize that people will just like you for who you are, as cheesy as it sounds. And so put yourself out there the way you are, with all the weirdness and all the quirks. That's all absolutely fine. And that's just the reality of being human. You know, you're not always going to be perfect, and people will connect with that imperfection. And the last point number 10, make sure you follow up and keep in touch with the people that you work with. Like I said before, your network is super important. And one of the things that you can do outside of business and outside of shooting and recording videos is just reaching out to the people that you worked with in the past, to the people that you seek to work with in the future. I really do believe that this is a people's industry and a people's business. And being able to network well, to go out and meet people and not even talk about business, but just like meet them and find out how things are going and, you know, in general, what they're up to. I think that goes a long way, because ultimately, if you're working with people who you're comfortable with, who are comfortable with you and like you, you're going to create better content with them. Now, I know this advice doesn't really apply across all industries, and I'm not saying that you're all going to be friends and best buddies with your clients. Like, of course not. I don't think that's realistic. But reaching out, speaking, and meeting up with people and catching up with people over coffees or over lunches, I think that goes quite far, actually. I think that's one of the very important things. And sometimes great ideas are born not on set and not in a Teams meeting. They're born just out and about when you are, you know, meeting up, having a chat, having some lunch, having a couple of pints down the local. That's sometimes when creativity really sparks, when you're in a situation when there's not much pressure to perform and to deliver, but you can actually have that free-flowing mindset, and that could be in a different scenario. So make sure you follow up with people, make sure you invite them out, make sure you chat with them, and go out and do things outside of just doing video production and photography. So yeah, these are the 10 things. This was a freestyle for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this was interesting for some of you. Let me know in the comments below what you think and what your advice might be and what your experience has been if you work in this field as well. I would be super curious to hear. And as always, guys, having a great day, and see you in the next video.